Welcome back to episode 2 of Project Italjet Dragster. Now, for those who watched episode 1, we stripped the carb apart and found that the float bowl was an absolute state. Now, thankfully, a quick clean up and we did get the bike running. So if you haven't seen that episode, I will leave a link at the end of this video. And like I say, in this episode, we're going to start stripping the bike down, ready for the refurb. If any viewers have got a link to a workshop manual for one of these, it would be much appreciated. It's relatively straightforward looks wise to take this apart. We're just going to start undoing stuff and see what moves. But when it goes back together, I do want to start using the proper size screws because it looks like we've got a right assortment in there, and make sure that all the torque settings are correct. But like I say, the first process is getting the bodywork off, and I start with a nose cone, removing the radiator cover, and we begin seeing the rawness underneath. We do also have to give a big thanks again to Paul at PJME, who did bring the bike down to us all the way from up north so that we could finally get the project underway. And whilst Paul doesn't particularly work closely with the Italjet, he is two-stroke through and through. So I'm sure we'll be visiting him with the engine at some stage to let him work some magic. And if you do want to support him and say thanks for bringing this project to us, make sure you go and check out his page, which I'll leave links in the description for now. Unfortunately, I was unable to remove the lower trim panel until the whole front end suspension was removed because there wasn't any sort of access panel to slide it up and around. So we were going to need to leave this for the time being and come back to it once we'd stripped the front end prop. In episode 1, I did put forward 3 options, and option 1 was to do an original restoration on the bike. Option 2 was like an OEM plus, so it was going to look very similar to original bike, but going to go with some wild engine build, maybe some wild colours. And then option 3 was engine swapping the 2-stroke into the later 4-stroke model. And I'm pleased to report by a few comments, everyone wanted to see option 2, which is going to be cool. So that is the plan we're going to be going with, which is an original looking bike, crazy colour scheme and a wildly tuned engine. Given the years that the bike had been laid up and the state of the fuel that we saw in episode 1, I certainly wasn't going to reuse the old 2-stroke oil, and I didn't even know what grade or quality was in there. So we are going to just drain and dispose of this. My long-term plan, I think again, is going to be going premix, as it's just so much more reliable than an old injection system that could fail and cause a seizure. Overall, the frame actually looks really good. The only rust I have noticed is in the battery tray compartment, which may have been caused by battery acid at some stage. The next job was to drain the engine coolant, and those that saw in the first episode, before we even started the bike, I checked to make sure that we did have fluid in there. Now, whilst it did have what appeared to be some sort of liquid coolant in there, it certainly didn't look great, with lots of corrosion in there. And as can be seen here, these solid hard lines have obviously rotted and allowed contamination into the coolant system. So it's certainly not looking great in there, but I'm hoping when we do the rebuild, we can give everything a good flush through and get that system nice and clean, because it certainly wasn't going to work well with all that rust in there. Due to the age and corrosion on the brake lines, all of these will be replaced with some hell goodies, so the old ones can simply be chopped and disposed of. With the main engine bolt removed, I was fighting the engine out of the chassis. It was really tough to get out, and I couldn't work out what was catching until I actually just stopped and had a look underneath, and there was a bush with some sort of seized tube in it that was just catching on the exhaust manifold. So the problem now was I was going to need to try and remove the rusted exhaust bolts on there, which looked like they hadn't come off in a long time. So in order to get those done, normally I'd suggest getting the engine hot or using a blowtorch, but given the tight access, I just soldered on with various socket sets trying to release them exhaust studs. Oh, lovely. Simply lovely. For those that couldn't see in the Osmo action footage, yeah, this is what should really, I believe, slide out of here, but it's seized in. And that was basically looped around the exhaust and was just holding it in there. So, it's out. But yeah, next time you see the engine, we'll be stripping it down. But yeah, let's get the rest of this frame apart, because it's taking far too long for a little 125, that's for sure. With the front assembly now apart, we can finally remove that plastic trim that had been held up by all the suspension components from the very first section of the video. The coolant hardlines were fiddly little things to get out from the frame, and they certainly weren't looking their best. If anyone's got any suggestions on the comments for good replacements of these, please do let me know, because I certainly don't want to put them back in the bike once we've got everything restored. I had suspected the suspension bracket was damaged when I picked the bike up, but it can clearly be seen here. We're going to need some fabrication work there. Sadly, the first sheared bolt of the strip down, and to be honest with you, a bike of this age, I almost expected more of it, so not completely annoyed, and as it's an alley bolt, it should be relatively easy to drill out. I had hoped to be able to remove the front master cylinder and caliper and hose all intact in one piece, so I didn't have any brake fluid dripping around on the bench. Annoyingly though, it just didn't have the room to get back through the frame, so what I needed to do was just lightly clamp it back on the bars so I could undo the brake hose union and separate the system, and much to my surprise there was absolutely no fluid in it. So yeah, that is definitely either got a leak or for some bizarre reason someone's drained it out. But anyway, the front brake is off and it's really starting to look really stripped down now. With the steering assembly removed, it was actually quite scary looking at how basic it was, that in my teens I had attempted to do 80 mile an hour on these things. Like, it is a disaster waiting to happen, but I guess young, fearless, stupid, whatever you want to call it. But looking at it now, am I thrilled at the thought of doing a top speed run on it? Absolutely not. But the assembly is a bar, and again it's something we're going to go over and hopefully refurb and upgrade. The ignition barrel is held on with a security bolt, also known as a shear bolt, and essentially what that means is when it's done up, the head snaps off and you can't undo it. And in order to remove it, generally the easiest way is like I show here. You take a really fine cutting disc, put a flat cut in it, and then you can use a flathead screwdriver to just unscrew it, providing it isn't seized. Using a flathead screwdriver, I simply make my way round the frame, removing all the clip screws that are attached to it. Again, we're going to have to decide whether to just replace these. they're pretty generic, and I don't think there's going to be much point in trying to zinc coat these again for the cost of the replacements. The swing arm mounting points were not looking fantastic at all. Heavily corroded, they'd actually looked ovaled, so I'm not really sure just yet what I'm going to do. What would be great is if someone could let me know in the comments is if they actually do a side stand kit for this, because I've got no real need for a centre stand and they're a bit fiddly putting them on and stuff. It'd be nice just to rock up somewhere, kick the side stand out and be done with it. So yeah, if you know where to buy one, let me know in the comments. With the frame pretty much stripped down, it was now going to be time to take it outside for a good degrease, and we're not going to be doing that in this episode. I'm going to call that a wrap here, and episode 3 we're going to actually be putting the engine on the ramp and stripping that down, and hopefully no horror stories to report, because the bike did run pretty well. It was a little bit boggy, but in terms of mechanical well-being it actually sounded really well. So the only final thing to leave you guys with, and again let me know in the comments, do you think we should do another MOT daytime special where essentially it has no lights but it is still road legal, because I don't plan to use the bike a lot, but I really like the way the Project RS125 came out with that daytime MOT. So yeah, let me know in the comments. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that like button, consider subscribing. Until the next one.